Today is a very auspicious day. Besides being a New Year day for majority of the people of the world, for the Ramakrishna devotees, it is a special day. It has been popularly called as the Kalpataru Utsav Day. Kalpataru Utsav started by a few of the householder devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. But according to Sharadanandji, Swami Sarvasthananda, this day has to be called by a special name, not just Kalpataru Day. It is Kalpataru for some of us, but for a majority of the people, it is, according to Swami Sarvasthananda, it is better to call this day as the day of self-revelation of the Master Sri Ramakrishna and also bestowal of freedom from fear. He has very carefully chosen these words. It is a very solemn day. If you see the situation which was there in 1886, the 1st January of 1886, Sri Ramakrishna had spent quite a few months, nearly 8 months, in Kashipur and Shampukur Bhati, because the devotees felt that his treatment would be better than staying at Dakshineshwar. So they shifted him, and many of the superficial devotees left him, obviously, because they expected that how can an incarnation have this life crippling disease? So one of the reasons of this last phase, Divya Leela or Antya Leela of Sri Ramakrishna, is to filter out genuine devotees from others. But there was one more warning he had given the devotees, that he said when increasing number of people, especially from the city, start flocking to this place means referring to his own body. He never used to say I. That ego was not there. So whenever he referred to himself, he always said, when you see lot of people of different levels of spirituality, not just genuine, when a big flock starts coming, know for certain this body will go. This body, that will be the end of this physical body. That is what Sri Ramakrishna said. So in a way, they were afraid. That is why some of the direct disciples, like Swami Niranjanananda and all, who were given the duty of seeing that just curious people do not just come and disturb Sri Ramakrishna. One of the reasons was they wanted their master to live more, so that he can spiritually awaken more people. The longer he lives, even Swami Vivekananda said, at least for our sake, you cure yourself. But Sri Ramakrishna said, I will ask the mother. So he asks Divine Mother, without whose will he would not take a single step. Then Mother pointed out to him that you are eating through so many mouths. Why do you have to eat through one mouth? Then he said, I felt ashamed. What a silly thing I am asking. So it was only a few who understood this. Even Naren went to the extent, that is Swami Vivekananda went to the extent of telling Sri Ramakrishna, I know for you this body is nothing. Just as in the life of previous incarnations, if you see Jesus Christ is an excellent example. He was reluctant to save himself and would rather be crucified than tell something which was not true. So crucifixion, giving up of the body, diseases, they are not part of spirituality. That is one thing which these prophets, these great saints, incarnations come to teach. So that was one lesson for the genuine devotees, because Sri Ramakrishna knew that those who are genuine in their search of spiritual life or spirituality, will stick to me, stick to this body. They continued as sevaks. And those who are on the border, like having some doubts, but at the same time devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, they would come and go. So this was, according to Shardananji, a way of filtering his antaranga and bahiranga. Bahiranga means casual or non-serious devotees and the serious devotees. Even on this day, we all know the incident, so I'm not going to describe it. But for those who are not aware of the particular incident which happened on 1st January 1886, we all know that that day he was feeling better. This was the exact time. That is why we try to stick to this time, 3 o'clock. So it was around this time that Sri Ramakrishna, because he was feeling better after a long period of rest, he came down. He felt like walking. He was not walking, he was confined to his bed. But that day he felt better, and the spacious lawns of Kashipur he was strolling when we all know Girish Ghosh and 30 other devotees, around 30. Mind you, here also there were two groups of devotees in the building or in the campus. One was these 30 who were waiting outside because it was that day it happened to be a holiday. So all of them were waiting outside to know what is the condition of Sri Ramakrishna. Most of the householder devotees, they had to go to work. But there was another set of devotees who took this opportunity because Sri Ramakrishna would be on his bed and in his room, so it was difficult to clean the room. So another set of devotees like Latu Maharaj and whoever was Swami Adbhutananda and all, they took this opportunity that when Thakur has gone down for a walk, let us take this opportunity and thoroughly clean the room. So they were not present, mind you. So they were in fact the inner circle. So there is a deep significance why they were not present. They could have got the benefit if Thakur was a Kalpataru on that particular day and that particular time, not during other times, then they would have also rushed or Thakur would have called them. But the incident, as you know, he was smiling at Girish. Sri Ramakrishna wore a green coat and he was just coming down and walking in the lawn. And when he came near the mango tree, he said, he was just asking Girish, what have you seen in me that you are trying to glorify me publicly before one and all? See, you have to remember one thing. Ramchandra Datta and other householder devotees, including Girish, were publicizing a lot. In fact, Keshav Chandra Sen also requested Thakur, said, I want to give some publicity. That is what we all hanker for. Some publicity, prachar and all those things. But Thakur's idea of prachar was different. So publicity, Girish, Keshav Chandra Sen asked. Indian Mirror and other magazines were very popular. Many educated people from Calcutta and also abroad would read that. So he said, Thakur, this wonderful message, he told Thakur once, I wish to publicize. If you give me permission, I will uh, uh, try to give some publicity to your message and your life and so many wonderful things the world can benefit. So Sri Ramakrishna then got a bit irritated. And then he said, you see, the time has not come. Not only that, he said, when the power which is within, pointing again to himself, his body, not himself, he used to say, when the power which is contained within this, when it starts expanding by the grace of the Divine Mother, he said, 1,000 Himalayas cannot stop the flow of that current, that spiritual power. So what can you do through a few newspaper articles and some publicity in the papers? That's not going to help. So we know, but some of the disciples, like Girish Chandra Ghosh. He knew this. He knew no amount of publicity could give a correct picture of the wonderful greatness of Sri Ramakrishna. So, just to test him, especially in front of other disciples, 30 of them, there were many, and Sri Ramakrishna asked this question, very important question. What have you seen in me that makes you glorify me publicly before one and all? Though he knew we cannot do it, but he had so much devotion, so much enthusiasm, and he was very great poet also. So naturally, he wanted to uh, speak about the greatness. It would simply flow out of his mouth. And wherever he went, Girish Chandra Ghosh would speak highly of Sri Ramakrishna. But at that time, by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, he understood that all my prattling, all my speaking about Sri Ramakrishna is nothing compared to the glory that he possesses. So he humbly bowed down before Sri Ramakrishna and said, what more can I say about him? It's a very important sentence. What more can I say about him? Even a fraction of whose glory Vyasa and Valmiki miserably failed to express in their immortal epics and Puranas. You see, he's comparing Sri Ramakrishna's life with that of Krishna and Rama, Vyasa and Valmiki, who wrote about Krishna and Rama. Even in spite of their genius, in spite of their wonderful capacity, the immortal epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, and all, he says, they also, in spite of their greatness, they could not express the glory of the Lord. And how can I do that? Even a fraction of that glory I cannot express. So whatever I say is out of devotion. He wanted to make it clear on that day that I am not saying I have understood you. It is by your grace that I just feel that your grace is so overwhelming that I just cannot help myself but speak about it to others. In fact, when he said, if you want to know the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna, don't look at Vivekananda because he was born he was a Sapta Rishi. He was a born adept in meditation and so many wonderful qualities. To make him Vivekananda was very easy. But he says, if you want to know the true greatness of Sri Ramakrishna, then you look at people like me, whom he could convert by the force of his grace, by his wonderful grace. He could convert the minds and the samskaras. Girish Ghosh used to say, even Swami Vivekananda said, when you write the biography of Sri Ramakrishna, please avoid all the miracles, especially the material miracles, that curing some person and all. They said they are very small miracles, which any yogi, any ordinary yogi with a little sadhana can do. But he said the greatest miracle was changing the samskaras, changing the entire samskaras, inbuilt samskaras, which takes years and hundreds of births to remove. We have to work out our karma. So that Sri Ramakrishna could do in an instant, without any sadhana. When Girish said, I cannot even repeat the name of God even once, because I can't promise you, he was very truthful. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, doesn't matter, at least can you, you give your power of attorney to me. I'll do it on my behalf. So that was a great miracle according to Girish and many others. Kalpataru Ghosh. There were hundreds of ordinary devotees who, by the magical touch of Sri Ramakrishna, many years and lives of samskaras were just destroyed. If you see the two famous hymns on Sri Ramakrishna, which Swami Vivekananda composed, which we sing every day, but there is so many wonderful ideas in that. The other day on Holy Mother's birthday, we discussed Prakritim Paramam, which we sing so many times. Similarly, these two hymns, if we get a chance, we will discuss, not today. But because there he has the only person who could possibly express a little of the glory of Sri Ramakrishna, which even a poet like Girish was hesitating, was done by Swami Vivekananda in these two hymns, Khandana Bhavabandhana and Om Rim Ritam. It's not for, it's not, it was a very thoughtful move on the part of Swami Vivekananda when some of his Western disciples said, why don't you leave behind some kind of routine or some kind of system where we can practice something every day. So he thought deeply and introduced this khandana, even set it to tune. So it is of tremendous significance, this hymn. But right now we will not discuss about it. We will just discuss what happened on that Kalpataru day. And what did Sri Ramakrishna do after Girish told him that I cannot express your glory? Forget preaching about your glory as an incarnation. Even Vyasa Valmiki could not do so. How can I do? I am an ordinary person. And Sri Ramakrishna understood that unlike Keshav Chandra Sen and others who were trying to convey to Sri Ramakrishna that they can make him popular, they can give publicity, like most of us feel that we should indulge in publicity. That is how ideas travel. But Sri Ramakrishna said, no, it is when the bees, when the flower starts blooming, the bees come by themselves. You don't have to preach, you don't have to do anything. So they all understood this, at least especially Girish understood this, in spite of being a poet, and Sri Ramakrishna was very much pleased. Whenever somebody showed humility, that I don't know everything, the moment there was a little rising of ego in some person, Sri Ramakrishna used to not even look at his face. He loved humble people. If Girish, because he wanted to hear this from Girish, he wanted to hear from the devotees. Whenever they said, they expressed their inability to assess, which no spiritual person will do, to judge people like Sri Ramakrishna. It's extremely difficult. Swami Vivekananda himself said, I cannot write a biography. Though he wrote these wonderful hymns, if anybody on this planet was capable of writing Sri Ramakrishna's life, it was Swami Vivekananda. But then he left it to Swami Sarvasthananda, who with great humility and wonderful grace of Holy Mother, it was only because of Holy Mother's presence, constant presence, in whose shadow or under whose care and guidance Swami Shardanji used to stay, he could write this book. The day she passed away, the day Holy Mother went into Mahasamadhi, his pen would not work. So these wonderful biographies, wonderful hymns, they were composed as a result of deep humility and the wish or the grace of Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Ma Sharda Devi. So now Sri Ramakrishna was very much pleased. He expected exactly this from Girish Ghosh. And then he said, he looked at all those who were present and all agreed, obviously. When Girish says, all agreed. But of course, we have to remember this, as we'll see about the motives of the 30 people. Most of them will not take those cases one by one, because more or less many of them were very lucky to be there. There were some great, as I told you, the direct disciples were all doing work. So naturally the idea is that, oh, they were not present, they missed out. No, they didn't miss out, because they knew who Sri Ramakrishna, the real Kalpataru, was. Whereas those who were there and who made so much of this particular incident, which Swami Shardanand in his book says, I would not call it a Kalpataru, because we saw he is a Kalpataru every day, every moment of his life. Why single out a particular day just because it coincides with 1st January? That doesn't mean that on that day alone he will be gracious to all. If we have that idea, Swami Shardanji has removed it. But people still flock on that day because we still hope that somehow on this particular day, somehow some grace will come to us. But he very clearly said, on that day, the most important thing that Sri Ramakrishna did was bestowal of freedom from fear and self revelation. He revealed who he really was, what he was capable of doing, or what he was capable of giving to his devotees. What did he give? Immediately, he looked at all present smilingly, knowing fully well he could read the minds of almost all of them. That's why some of them he said, "Not now, you come later." But he could definitely understand that each one had come there with so many desires, so many ideas, or so many, uh, they were full of requests or desires, something in their mind which they wanted Sri Ramakrishna to fulfill. So he removed all that, did not give any false hopes. He said, "What more shall I say to you?" This is very important. This is the most important part of the Kalpataru Utsav. He said, "What more shall I say to you? May you all be spiritually awakened." So he knew many people have not come there for spiritual awakening. They have come with their own problems. No doubt, we cannot blame the disciples, those who came there. Because they had pressing problems. They had problems which at that moment felt so urgent, or maybe that occupied their mind. Some wanted money. In fact, some of them asked for that. If you see the incidents that happened, some want just wanted to get some grace so that lives can be better, happy, and all those things. But nobody, obviously, not all of them were in a mood to ask for spiritual awakening. So, Tomader Chaitanya Hok. So, that is the idea. Were they not conscious? Every one of us are conscious. We are conscious of our status, we are conscious of our money, we are conscious of our wealth, and then a little consciousness inflates our ego like anything. We might have not even achieved 1/100th of what other people in other parts of the world achieve, but we are conscious that we are someone great. That is what Sri Ramakrishna did not like. He did not like this. So he said, "I can't give you anything because none of them are going to help you in any way. So Tomader আর কি বলবো? What more shall I say to you? I cannot say anything more than this. What is that? May you all be spiritually awakened." So immediately after that, just it shows that he immediately goes into samadhi. So whenever he spoke of the highest thoughts, you see, whenever he spoke, Shiva Gyana Jiva Seva, for example, that when he uttered in front of the Vaishnavas, he goes into samadhi. These are all utterances from the Bhavamukha state. It was the Divine Mother who, when he was in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, after his Advait sadhana, he was now and then his mind was soaring to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Somebody had to come and force some food so that he can live. The very fact that the presence of these people, and including Hriday, who used to sometimes hit his head with a stick to bring him down to the normal plane, his mind was soaring to a very high plane, and which would not have normal case, he would not have returned. That spiritual awakening, if it takes place, total spiritual awakening, like Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which Totapuri uh, taught him, and he attained it within 3 days, he would have left his body. But there was some purpose of the Divine Mother. So that is why she had to force, that is why three times in fact, he heard the voice. He heard the voice of the Divine Mother though he did not see her speaking directly, but he heard distinctly heard a voice कि भाव मुखे थाको. Stay in bhav mukha. What does it mean? What is bhav mukha? It is a state where, though you are capable of staying in the highest state which is possible for a jiva, that is nirvikalpa samadhi, you come down voluntarily for the benefit of people to express in a few words. He said, many times I want to tell you some wonderful things, what I saw there. But unfortunately, my mother holds my throat and doesn't allow me to speak. So, what does it mean? Words are not possible to express that which one experiences in that high state. But because the Divine Mother asked him to stay in Bhava Mukha, that Bhava would be there, but at the same time, he would not enter into it. Mukha means the door, the doorway to Bhava, highest Bhava, but he can come back for the benefit of humanity and make some utterances. If you see, there is a beautiful edition. Unfortunately, the oldest edition of Kathamrita in Bangla. Master Mashay, I don't know why it was removed. Now it has been introduced in some editions. He has nearly 100 Mahavakyas. Just as in the Upanishads, there are 4 Mahavakyas. Uh, Master Mashay, especially if he has said something just before going to Samadhi or just coming down from Samadhi, and Master Mashay found it, M found it, this wonderful words of Sri Ramakrishna as important as the Mahavakyas of the Upanishads. He would print it in bold letters. If you see the first edition of the 5-volume Kathamrita, which Narendrapur has published, the small 5 volumes. Those who know Bengali, they can refer to that. There you will find this, some of the lines or quotes of Sri Ramakrishna in bold letters. Suddenly you will find there is, of course, another volume which is known as the red letter edition, which is also very popular, where all the conversations which Sri Ramakrishna uttered, they are printed in red, whereas all the other questions and other remarks of M, they are all in black ink. So that is known as the red letter. But there, everything is marked. Whereas M specifically underlined or maybe printed in bold some Mahavakyas. So may you all be spiritually awakened. Shiva Gyane Jiva Seva. All these wonderful quotes, if you read minutely, slowly, if one reads the gospel, then we'll find that Sri Ramakrishna, because M was so attentive and so concentrated in his, that's why Sri Ramakrishna chose him to record the gospel. He did not even choose any one of the monastic disciples because his capacity knew a little bit of shorthand, but his observation was so sharp that he could see what was the mood of Sri Ramakrishna when he said this, who all were present, what was the context. These things become very important. This is known as Leela Chintan. It is not just what Sri Ramakrishna said, you take up a book, sayings of Sri Ramakrishna, but where did he say it? To whom did he say it? It was said to Girish Ghosh that Tomader Chaitanya Hok. So we get these messages, we send these messages. Yeah, Chaitanya Hok mane ki. What really do we mean? Are we not conscious? We are conscious of so many things. We are conscious, as I said, of our greatness, conscious of whatever little achievements we had, conscious of our money, conscious of our so many upadhis which we have acquired in the world. That is not consciousness. That is not what Sri Ramakrishna means here. Otherwise, all were conscious. Those who were there, none of them were unconscious, including Girish. তো আর কি আশীর্বাদ দেব তোমাদের, মানে what can I more shall I say to you, তোমাদের আর কি বলবো, may you all be spiritually awakened. So this he has given to all, whether one had the capacity to understand, capacity to get spiritually awakened or think that it is worth trying. He blessed, that was the only blessing he could give. Not that he could not give other things, but he knew giving other things on Kalpataru day just because somebody asks. That is why you will find that, and there is a description here. It's not that they were ordinary people. Definitely they were lucky to be there. These 30 people were not ordinary compared to the other devotees. He says that day, most of them who received this blessing, the 30 of them, had different spiritual experiences and visions according to the stage of spiritual life they were in. See, everybody did not have a similar experience. Some of them felt some bliss. They felt a divine joy which continued for several days, sometimes months. Some of them saw there was some kind of divine intoxication. Those who were more sensitive, perhaps they were having this divine intoxication. Some of them saw their chosen deities without doing sadhana, which is so difficult. Only a avatara can do that. So they just had in a flash, maybe not a constant vision, but they saw their Ishta Devata or chosen deities, which they were struggling to see, struggling through meditation. So these things happened. You could obviously raise the consciousness of the people around him according to what they had already achieved. If they were very near having these visions, he made it sure that they had their vision at least on that day. Then he says, some saw divine light, others felt the sensation of something rising in their spinal cord, that is Kundalini. So just by his mere wish and just by uttering a few words, that is, Tomader Chaitanya ho, whatever level they were in, whatever capacity they had to absorb the spiritual energy, not to these blessings, they got it. So now we will find in the very name Kalpataru has been beautifully explained by Sri Ramakrishna in one story. Though it is a very simple story, people will laugh at it. They will be, perhaps it is a story told for amusement, but it has a deep significance. The story is a gentleman was going in a jungle and he accidentally comes across a tree which is known as Kalpataru. Kalpa word has come from Sankalpa. So whenever a wish comes to you, to your mind, then you have developed a Sankalpa. You have a wish to go to some place. You buy a ticket. That is, you make a Sankalpa that I will go. So first a desire has to arise and then you try to fulfill it. You may or may not be successful, but you will at least try. So similarly, they say, I mean, according to um, the myth or the mythology which gives rise to this story, Sri Ramakrishna told a story. A person was going through the forest, was very tired, lost his way. He was just desperate. He was hungry. He was really weak. And suddenly, by accident, he comes under the Kalpataru tree. And naturally, whatever sankalpa they say, according to it may not be real, but according to the mythology, what it what happens if you make a sankalpa under that tree, that it is immediately fulfilled. So he was pleasantly surprised when he was tired, he was just desiring some food and water. Immediately food and water comes. And then he was very happy. Then he said, "Oh, how nice it would be." He makes another sankalpa. He says, how nice it would be if I get a nice bed. Now I'm full. I've eaten to my heart's content. Fresh water, everything has come by the grace of this Kalpataru. So I'll now take some rest. So he takes rest, a bed appears, and he's taking rest. But then the samskaras will not go. Many of the old memories of the past life, this life, he just thinks, as anybody would think in a jungle, that if a tiger comes all of a sudden, then but that was also a sankalpa. So the moment that sankalpa came to his mind, the tiger really came. Just as the food came, The water came and the cot came and he had his rest. But unfortunately, his desires or his fears or his samskaras made him think some harmful things also. And the tiger comes and eats that person. So what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, it's not just a story. It may not be uh, possible that such a thing may never happen. But what this story tells us is, if we don't know to make a proper sankalpa, then better not go under such a kalpataru tree. Because he didn't go thinking that this is a kalpataru. He went by accident. But at the same time, see his fate. So, dealing with God, whichever Ishta, any God, every God is a Kalpataru. In fact, every devotee feels that his deity will fulfill all his desires. Otherwise, why will he go to that particular God? And why do we change gods? Because some gods do not fulfill our desires. Then we say, okay, we'll go to this temple, this tirtha, or this does not work. Let us, our sankalpa is not getting fulfilled, is not fructifying. So let us change the gods. We even change the gods for that purpose. But if by some reason, because of our faith or just because of coincidence, some of the wishes are fulfilled, our faith deepens. Then we say, oh, this God, I have wonderful faith because I have made all the sankalpas and he has fulfilled almost all of them. So the success rate of making the sankalpas and getting it fulfilled will make his faith stronger. Faith in the sense, not the real faith. Real faith will not depend on whether the prayer is answered or not. But Swami Sardhananji says, many of the people who got Sri Ramakrishna's grace, definitely you can't classify them as people with no desires. There were hardly some of them. Maybe if the monastic disciples like Swami Vivekananda, Brahmananda, if they were there, they would have really appreciated and asked uh, Thakur that when will you awaken that consciousness, that Chaitanya, which I'm struggling to do in spite of my sadhana, not able to do. But Swami Shardanji says that such people definitely they were full of world. Some of them had some worldly cravings. That means some of them were capable of thinking of the tiger. So if Sri Ramakrishna is the Kalpataru, like that tree, will he allow the tiger to come and eat us? Now that is a very important question. Why Sri Ramakrishna is not the Kalpataru like the Kalpataru tree? Taru means tree, Kalpa means wish fulfilling tree. So if Sri Ramakrishna was like that Kalpataru, then according to this story, we have to be very careful. The tiger will come and eat because anytime the thought of tiger may come and that will be end of us. But Sri Ramakrishna is, according to Shardanji, is not a Kalpataru of that type. That is why I refuse to call him a Kalpataru. Because he knows this desire, my devotee is asking for this desire, and he is pestering me also. And that incident happened actually that day. One of them, who was not ready for spiritual visions, we'll come to that later. But Sri Krishna, according to Shardanji, he gives us only that which would lead us to the highest peace, fulfillment, and the awakening of the consciousness. That is the uniqueness of this Kalpataru. It's a different type of Kalpataru. We can't expect our prayers to be answered. So if the prayers are not answered, a true devotee of Sri Krishna would definitely say, Sri Krishna perhaps doesn't want me to this desire to be fulfilled because it is harmful. Ultimately, it will be harmful for me. So they don't lose, such devotees don't lose their patience. No matter how much hardship they have to face, they think that even this hardship, whatever happens, is happening by the infinite grace of Sri Krishna. If somebody, if they understand this. And moreover, the conventional Kalpataru, if you see the stories in Puranas, you have to go to the Kalpataru. Kalpataru will not come to you. But here, Sri Ramakrishna is a Kalpataru who, if necessary, will come to you. Whether you ask him or not, if he feels that you are sincere, your devotion is sincere, and you don't know what to ask, you don't know what desire you should have, then you leave it to him. Then he will come, unlike the traditional Kalpataru where you have to go to the tree. So he will come, he will, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, you take one step towards God. Maybe he is 10 steps away, but he will take the 10 steps and come to you, seeing that seeing your incapacity, your lack of capacity to take 10 steps. So that is a real Kalpataru, that he doesn't wait for us to make the right desire. He will create situations and circumstances in such a way that we will be on the spiritual path, no matter what happens. But one has to have patience. That is what Swami Sardanji says. That is why he said the devotees, I mean the monastic devotees who were, they thought it is more important to clean his room and look after his comfort, do some seva when it is possible to do, rather than run there, because they definitely heard the sounds. In fact, some of them went crazy. Some of the householder devotees thought that they will get everything they want. So they just went crazy and were shouting, "Come, where are you?" Just out of ecstasy. So in fact, Sri Ramakrishna's presence was so powerful and oh so overwhelming that they started shouting. So there was a big commotion. And some of them even ran to bring the other devotees and say, "Don't miss this chance. You just come. He is the Kalpataru today." So, but still, that had absolutely no impact on Swami Latu Maharaj and whoever was there. I think there were quite a few, 5 or 6 direct disciples. They said, "What is new? We have seen Sri Ramakrishna giving us whatever we want at the right time. So we don't want a Kalpataru who will give only on 1st January. Because then that will be limiting his capacity. He is a Nitya Kalpataru. That is why you will see Belur Math doesn't celebrate this. Because in Belur Math is Nitya Kalpataru. You go on 2nd January, 3rd January, 10th January. Any day you go, if His grace is there, He can shower His grace. Why should we restrict Him only on this particular day, that too at 3 o'clock? We do it now because it's a historical event. We try to commemorate it and try to understand. So what happens is, Vaikunthanath Sanyal, I'm giving just one example. There were many. Vaikunthanath Sanyal is a great devotee. Thakur loved him so much that whenever he came, he used to ask him to sing. He's a good singer. So he was begging for the grace. This is a very important incident. He says, I have given you everything. Why are you pestering me? He said, no, give me something more, as we normally plead. And then Sri Ramakrishna said, okay, just like Hriday, there is a similar incident where Hriday was also, but he was not there. Here, when he was constantly asked that, you see, you say you have given your, he was not trusting what Sri Ramakrishna is telling him. He didn't have full trust, full faith. So he said, I know, but you make me understand that I have received your grace. I am not getting any hint now. He said, I have given you everything. Just be happy with what you have got. I've already showered my grace on you. Then he insisted, then he said, okay, and he just touched him. So this is this incident. And then suddenly something very strange happened. Sri Ramakrishna had told him, I have given you whatever you could assimilate, whatever you could digest. Now don't ask me for more. He touched him. And poor Vaikunthanath, wherever he saw Sri Ramakrishna. Now just imagine, we want a vision of Sri Ramakrishna, but if he appears everywhere, then imagine what will happen. So he beheld the figure and The master was smiling at him. He looks this side, he smiles. Now that continued for a few days, he was happy. Now I can see my Ishta all the time. Then the problem came when he had to go to the office. He was, of course, working in an office. So he found it difficult to attend to his normal work and even attend to others. They thought he's gone mad. Then he comes back. He says, "Oh Lord, I am not able to contain this mental state. Please bring this to an end." And Sri Ramakrishna obviously knew that let him just learn something that unless you are fit, unless you want his vision 24 hours a day, but if you have so many other desires and you also want his constant vision, then it's not compatible. It's definitely not compatible. So that is why even in the case of Narendranath, see, Swamiji could have been, he had been given by his very touch. He had the highest realization after a few meetings. And he found everything vanishing, the samadhi which he was yearning for. And then, even then, he shouted, "I have my parents at home. So what have you done to me?" Then Sri Ramakrishna laughed and said, "Okay, I withdraw this." So he knew that if a person is not fit, so another important role of a Kalpataru is to give what one can digest. What one can digest, what is good for you, only that the Kalpataru gives, if he is a real Kalpataru. In that sense, he is a Kalpataru. And that is why uh, we, Swami Shardanji says, it is the day of self-revelation. He revealed to the world what he is and what he is not, what he cannot do. We have to be very clear in this. There are so many ideas of God, Godhood, where smaller prayers are answered. We go to so many smaller gods. Going to this God will help us in this, that. Yeah, there are many things which some of the deities, some of the planets, some of the grahas, there's so many grahas which planets and other things believe in Jyotisha and all will help. So Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, those who have a particular kind of faith, I fulfill them through that faith. But they will get only that much, not more. Because he wants that. He doesn't want. If the child says, I want a chocolate, you can't give him a toy. He says, I want a chocolate. I am just happy. And then he will cry, he will shout. Then till you give him a chocolate, he will not even be tempted by the most costliest of toys. So also this particular idea that God gives, real Kalpataru gives what is fit for you. As Thakur told in his wonderful parable, he says, mother knows which child can digest which food. Some people can digest heavy food, some can digest simply milk and soft things. So she knows, and she is the best judge to give to their respective children what they can digest, what they can assimilate. Similarly, this now the question comes, how can we connect? Because this happens to be a New Year day. So the New Year day, it's maybe a coincidence. But if you see the New Year, the real New Year, I'm not talking of the celebration, because it is celebrated all over the world because of the English calendar, and it is celebrated in different ways. But the real New Year, the idea is that in some traditions, in many traditions, you have an old man which represents the year that has just gone by. So take an old man and burn him. You have to burn him because the old has to be burnt, and there is songs. You are not unhappy that you are burning the old because the past has gone. Good or bad, it is over. Now let us make a fresh beginning. That is why that famous English quotation, ring out the old, ring in the new. That is how you sing. I'm talking of the secular celebration of New Year Day, not Kalpataru. But according to Vedanta, if you see, there's no such thing as old and new. We are the same personality. We only thing is we change. Our life is nothing but a series of changes. So you can't say that is the old XYZ person, that is the old John, this is the new John. He's not going to change on 1st January just because 31st has been converted to 1st January. You may make resolutions, we all make resolutions, thinking, oh, let us make a new beginning. And symbolically, we may even burn the old man. But it's not so easy. We can't burn the old uh, personality. That personality will continue, whether it is before the new year or after the new year. It's just a resolution which we can make and hope that slowly we can convert that old man. We can't burn him, we can convert that old man into a new personality who will be more peaceful, more happy. So it is this remaining new always. That is the very idea. New Year means that is what Sri Ramakrishna used to say. He was always fresh like a child. For a child, for just see, a child is not a victim of old memories like we are. We remember everything. A child forgets. He may quarrel with his friends, but within 15 minutes, uh, he may become a great enemy, but within 15 minutes, he again becomes a friend. That is why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when you have that child, Jesus Christ also said, unless you are reborn as a child, not literally, unless you have that childlike quality which always looks, you see, child is so enthusiastic. If you see any child, for example, he has no anxiety, no worry. In fact, our senior people or the people who have had undergone a lot of hardships, we teach the poor children that life can be difficult, this is difficult, that is difficult. The poor child is only taught negative things, whether in school or that you have to compete. If you don't get this, you will be left out. So that freshness, that newness has to be regained in a new year. That is the idea of a secular idea of a new year. But if you look at from the Vedantic perspective, you have to find, you will find that this newness is a characteristic of a Paramahamsa. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the Paramahamsa has a nature of a 5-year-old child. Why did he say that? It is because, like them, Sri Ramakrishna was always like that. He wanted something new. He wanted to try out different sadhanas. He was not happy with the old. In fact, there was no such thing as old with him. He did not like if somebody called him old. Of course, he died young. He was hardly 50, 49 when he passed away. And Swami Vivekananda himself said, I don't want to be called an old man. Not in physical age. What he meant was that idea, that newness, which is associated with the new year, that we are always ready to learn. As long as Thakur used to say, Yavat bachi tavat sikhi. As long as I live, so long do I learn. I remain a child. And just as a child is curious to learn, the new year is supposed to give us new lessons based on what was experienced in the previous year, which we have to forget, though it is difficult to forget. But the child approaches every day with a fresh hope, something fresh, something hopeful, something positive. And that is what Kalpataru, I mean, maybe it is a coincidence that it happened on a New Year day when the whole world is celebrating this particular day in various ways, trying to think that we can just forget or burn that old man, which they hopefully, I mean, they have a lot of hopes that whatever we have done in the last year will somehow miraculously will be burnt away. The old man can be burnt, and from tomorrow we will be new. If it was so easy, but Vedanta doesn't give you such false hopes. Neither does Sri Ramakrishna give. That is why, and Shardananji knew this. So he said, don't associate this 1st January. It's an auspicious day the whole world celebrates because of their ignorance. They think the old man is burnt out. But we have to be wise. We have to understand that newness doesn't mean that you simply discard the old. On the foundation of the old, you have to build the new. Not everything that you did in the last year was bad, obviously. We did many good things. That is why the Ishopanishad, if you see the last verse, the rishis are very wise. They say Kritosmara, Kritosmara, twice they say. They say remember your good deeds, remember your good deeds. But we do just the opposite. Or our mind forces us to remember our mistakes and we repent, there is anxiety, there is worry. So, to remember new deeds, you have to be like a child. For a child, every day is fresh. All the quarrels that he did yesterday have been erased from his memory. That is why that innocence is there. Swamiji says, child is born innocent, and as he grows, unfortunately, our whole education system, parents, everybody included, the whole world, he says, he uses harsh words. He says, they rob the poor child of his innocence. Rob, literally, we rob them. That innocence is lost. Thakur has come to regain, tell us you regain your innocence. Tumadir Chaitanya Hok. You were full of Chaitanya. In fact, Holy Mothers, there is a small child in Holy Mothers. That child was jumping about and he saw butterflies trying to sip honey from the flowers. He's full of consciousness. He's full of energy. He's full of life. He says, see how the butterfly is talking to the flower. For him, it is a conscious act. It's not just a dry flower or a plant with which, from which the butterfly is sucking honey. He thinks, just as we converse when two people come, the butterfly is trying to talk with the flower. That means they are full of Chaitanya. They have their own ideas. We may laugh at it, but they're full of Chaitanya. We remove that or we try to tell them or we rob them of their wonderful newness, that consciousness, that freshness. And he says, Swami Vivekananda says, but we should not lose hope. Society has tried their best to rob the child of the innocence, but spirituality helps you to regain that innocence. Such a beautiful explanation of spiritual life he will never find. Swamiji had this wonderful art of telling difficult philosophies, trying to convey it. He says, society tries to rob the child of his innocence, of his newness, of this freshness, by telling him all sorts of negative things. And spirituality is, in fact, reversing the process and going back to that original freshness or the original childlikeness which a spiritual person should have. So, Sri Ramakrishna's life, if you see this significance of the old, the new ringing out the old, is true in a certain way. We don't want the old techniques to be used on us. However wise the people may be, they think they're uh, improving that child or improving somebody who's desperate for spiritual education. They try to give him an education which makes him lose his innocence, lose that consciousness which was originally there. We are born with that consciousness. That is what Sri Ramakrishna came to awaken. That is why he said, Tumader Chaitanya Ho, means you regain that consciousness which you obviously have lost. Otherwise, why would he bless that 30 people? They were conscious people, they were well educated people, they were great devotees also, not that they were ordinary people on the street. They were great devotees, but they had not understood the true meaning of regaining that consciousness or awakening of the consciousness. So that is why I say Tomader Chaitanya Hok. In fact, that is the only blessing Sri Ramakrishna can give. That is the only blessing the Vedas give. That is why in the Vedas it is said, Thakur said, The essence of Vedas is in the Gayatri, and the essence of Gayatri is in Om. What does it mean? The essence of the Vedas, if it is in Gayatri, all the four Vedas constantly tell us to awaken our consciousness. What the blessing that Sri Ramakrishna gave on this day was nothing but Gayatri mantra in Bengali. Tomader Chaitanya ho. So what does Gayatri mantra say? Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. We are praying. In fact, the child starts praying. He is supposed to continue that prayer till he becomes old because he has to retain that newness. People were not fools to initiate people into that Yagnopavita. They knew the essence of Vedas. If somebody has to practice, it is this Gayatri or practice spirituality, repeat the mantra. All the mantras are meant only to awaken the consciousness. So the prayer is Dhiyo Yona. They could have designed some other prayer. Give me wealth, give me this, give me that. No. The prayer which a 5-year-old, 6-year-old child who gets his Janoi, the Yagnopavita in Vedas, they thought the only prayer that should be taught now. He will learn many things. He will learn mathematics. He will learn so many things. He will earn a living. He will learn business. Let him learn everything. But if he is not able to simultaneously awaken his consciousness, his life will be waste. That is the highest message. So again, we pray to Sri Ramakrishna on this auspicious day that let his blessing, which was the only blessing he could give us, remind us that whenever we come to this shrine, if we have any other idea in mind, that is not going to be fulfilled. Because he will not give us. Because he himself says on Kalpataru day, he could have told them, oh, you want a richness. Somebody wanted to become a rich man. He could have easily promised him. That was very easy for Sri Ramakrishna. But to awaken the consciousness is very difficult. Every incarnation cannot give this blessing. So that is why he said, what more can I can't do anything more than this. I just pray to the Divine Mother that let the Divine Mother or let God Tomader Chaitanya Hok, let your consciousness be awakened. So that is a central message. Every time we try to celebrate, whether it is 1st January or any other event, this is the core message which through the Gayatri, through the Vedas, through Om, repetition of Om, through repetition of our mantra, through all our sadhana, the goal is the same, which the Vedas speak of, and which Sri Ramakrishna on this occasion, he used Kalpataru, a very auspicious day, at least for Ramakrishna devotees, to tell them, to remind them, this is your true wealth. The sooner you try to awaken the consciousness, of course, by His grace, by Holy Mother's grace, by the Divine Mother's grace, if that consciousness is awakened in us, at least we feel the need to awaken the consciousness. We may not do it immediately because we have to undo so many things. But at least on this day, we have hope, we can have some hope that by the blessings of Sri Ramakrishna, by the relics that we have just now, the presence of the relics, the presence of Sri Ramakrishna himself in a subtle way will help us awaken that consciousness and fulfill the goal of our life. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Padamastu. Is there? Okay. So there's one question.
Question is from a spiritual seeker's perspective, what should be the prayer today and daily towards Sri Ramakrishna, which helps us in ongoing spiritual development?
So that is what I told. Maybe you typed this question earlier. Whoever has asked this question, from a spiritual seeker's perspective, what should we pray on this day? It's a nice question. And that is what I mentioned at the end. Because if Sri Ramakrishna is capable of giving this, which is the highest gift or highest grace that he can shower upon us, that is the highest prayer. Answer is simple. Because if you ask anything else, he may or may not give. If he feels it is not good for us, not that he is not capable of giving, he is definitely, if the child pesters the mother for toys, she has to give it. Whether it helps the child to get good marks or not, if he just keeps on crying, then there's no other way. So Thakur will give. I'm not saying he's not capable, but the thing is, he will point this fact that this is not the ultimate gift that I can give or the ultimate grace I can shower. There are much higher things, and on this day at least, he revealed that this is the blessing that he can give. So that is obviously from this incident, from this Kalpataru, we can learn this, that we have to ask for that.